call this Strategic Planning Committee meeting of Monday, February 4th to order. All members are present. And Ms. Terry, would you like to lead us in prayer?
I'll be happy
Followed
to.
by the pledge.
Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come here today to do the business of Ascension Parish. We pray that you will give us wisdom and guidance as we make decisions that affect our constituents and those folks who live both in and out of our parish at times. I would like to ask a special intention tonight for the Babin family. And the loss of Mrs. Babin is tragic for Mr. Jimmy, and he and she are both longtime residents of our parish. Father, we thank you again for the many blessings of living in this wonderful parish, and in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and everyone is accounted for here. Of the comment period, anyone speaking on any agenda item, please sign your name and come forward whenever that agenda item comes up, and we will call you. We have one right now. Proposed garbage sale ordinance. Lindsay Manda.
Garage sale.
I'm sorry, garage sale.
I drafted this at Chairman Chuck Snyder's request. It's an ordinance that defines garage sales and excludes the sale of personal property from
Lindsay,
his-
before you get started, can I give people a background? Because
Oh,
we
yes,
want to make
please.
sure. We had a couple of instances of some individuals using the, I guess, backing of garage sales to conduct basically retail businesses from their home. So we do not, it's not the intention of this body to require people to get permits nor pay any fees for garage sales. We want people to enjoy their garage sales and continue to have them, but we need to try to keep the abuses from happening. So therefore, we're trying to describe these, and that's what Lindsay's chosen to do. That's where we are.
So this ordinance merely defines garage sale and personal property, meaning you are permitted to sell personal property that is owned, maintained, or utilized by an individual or member of a residence or family and acquired in the normal course of living and maintaining a residence. So in other words, it would not be a garage sale if you purchased items with the intention of reselling them.
Okay. Yes, Doc?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Manda. By legally defining what a garage sale now is in terms of what the parish perceives it to be, how does that prevent, and I'm a new member to this committee, so I reviewed the film of the previous meeting to see what happened. I believe President Martinez indicated he was getting complaints from a single individual that a person was selling things pretty much on a daily basis, which I would not support at all, under the label of saying it's a garage sale. But so now we have this legal definition. How is it going to prevent that individual or anyone else like it from continuing that activity, which is distasteful?
Right. Well, this would be the first step. I do believe that in addition to these definitions, we would need to make necessary changes to the zoning code. In other words, permitting garage sales to take place in a residential designation, and then obviously excluding the sale of property which is not personally owned and maintained. Enforcement has always been an issue with our code of ordinances, and
So I realize your instruction, but my concern is that there doesn't seem to be any teeth here other than to say what the beast is. It is a garage sale or a yard sale, it says, or a rummage sale, et cetera. if it follows the definition you have there in 1A.
Well,
So-
there's a general provision in our code, I believe in chapter 1, where any violation of the code would
So a general,
result in it's a misdemeanor or a fine up to $500 a day.
so
per
when you
violation.
couple that with this ordinance, that would be understood?
Yes.
And would give you the teeth. That's all I was asking about. Thank you.
And for everyone's information, basically, when someone breaks an ordinance, you can file a complaint with planning office and DPW office, and then we contact them, code enforcement officers contact them. Most of the time, that complaint is taken care of. If it's not, then it goes through our process with our parish court, so that's why we established that.
And to be clear, Councilman Satterlee, I do believe in addition to that general provision, which provides that all violations are misdemeanors with a certain fine, that we do need to designate in the zoning code garage sales as an item on our table underneath medium intensity residential. So therefore, we're permitting garage sales, but we're excluding the sale of property that's acquired for resale, with the intention
You
to
know,
resale.
Mr. Chairman, so that gives me a follow-up concern I didn't have. So is it the intention then to go to the zoning commission and get them to recommend a
I think
change
it
in
would
the
be a,
LDC?
Yes,
Okay.
I think that's something.
That would be the next step.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions, comments?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lambert, second by Ms. Cazzo, to move this forward to the full council with recommendations, Ricky, to have that.
The zoning commission or the full council?
It goes to, and pardon me, if this goes straight to the zoning commission for that?
You can
Add on
put this to the
yeah.
council, but I do think because we are going to be changing the use of a particular property, that we should send it to
And
the
that's,
zoning
I didn't,
commission.
I wasn't sure whether that was a separate issue or the ordinance was a,
I think they would be addressed better simultaneously.
okay.
So we
So,
have the zoning commission make their recommendation about where to put this in the code, where we want to allow garage sales, which I think is pretty clear. We want to allow them in residential.
Yeah.
But how they want to address that in their code going forward.
and then the ordinance goes through from there?
And then they would make a recommendation to the full council, and it would go for public hearing.
Okay. And then I beg your pardon, Dempsey, that would go to the zoning commission
That's what I make the motion.
and then come to the council. We have a second? Anyone?
I thought Ms. Castle did, but I'm second.
Terry did. Any further discussion? Any opposition? If not, then that is passed. Gentlemen, please send that on. Okay. Update on Parish Pipeline Ordinance, Rick Weber. And this is an ongoing thing. We've been updating our pipeline ordinances to get some teeth and protection, just make sure that people are following the wishes that we have. And what's the update, Rick?
Mr. Chairman, the first item in your packet is last Wednesday, we sent the contract to LA One Call, and we became members of LA One Call, and that was complete. In your packet, you'll see the shape files that actually, the screen captures from LA One Call for the shape files that OEP and IT developed. That was submitted last Friday, and when we walked in Monday morning, we already had tickets waiting for us. It's going to be a pretty invaluable process. This is actually exceeding our expectations as far as receiving notifications from LA One Call. Go ahead. The second item that's in your packet is the minutes from the subcommittee meeting, the pipeline subcommittee meeting. We looked at all the protocols, and it doesn't seem to place any undue burden on the operators, the pipeline operators for the parish itself. The only recommendation that the pipeline operators made was to include the MAOP, or the maximum allowable operating pressure for the pipeline. The next item in your packet is the subcommittee meeting from the LEPC Subcommittee for Fixed Facilities. This is 7 pages of dialogue between the petrochemical industry and the LEPC. Once the EM classifications were defined and the protective actions were defined, I think everybody else was less apprehensive about making some really sweeping changes to the notification protocol, so that looks pretty good. There's a CARE plant managers meeting on Friday that I'll attend, and I will make sure to answer any clarifications that they may have. And then the final item in your packet is a draft ordinance. This is from Chapter 8 of our ordinances. It actually adds 3 additional sections within the ordinance. This is going to be pretty groundbreaking. None of my counterparts that I'm aware of has this ordinance in place. If you look on the second page, it just extends Section 8.9, which is reimbursement of costs incurred during an emergency response. That was kind of elaborated on and clarified. The 2 sections that were added were Sections 8.10 and 8.11. 8.10 is hazardous material and explosive preparedness and response. If you look at Section 8.10, we added explosives because what we're seeing now is that some companies are bringing in explosive magazines into the parish and we're not aware of it. You know, they have to get a state permit, but they don't have to get a local permit to do so, so we ensured that we added that to it. And Livingston is following suit with this also. A couple of other things that I wanted to direct your attention to is on the next page, under 810E, Local Emergency Planning Committee. It designates me as the chair of the Local Emergency Planning Committee and makes the LEPC an official subcommittee of this committee. So what we'll do is establish an incident review board, whether it's a transportation incident, a fixed site incident, and we'll review it. And if we want to take any type of civil actions under this ordinance, we'll bring it to this committee to move forward. A couple of other items that are different than the state law is on the next page, items 19 and 20, is that we'll be able to conduct on-site audits of fixed facilities and on-site audits of magazines and pipelines. It covers owner's responsibilities, the owner-operator's responsibilities, emergency response notifications, failure to report penalties. Nothing within the ordinance is not anything that they're really subject to, that they're already subjected to in state law. So that it kind of mirrors that. We just added a few things so we can enforce it under local ordinances. And then Section 811, a little bit further down, actually covers the underground pipeline damage and prevention. It covers enforcement and monitoring, excavation and demolition. It actually identifies LA One Call as the official notification center for the parish.
Okay.
And then it covers violations and penalties, and then monitoring and enforcement. So really, we just added 3 additional chapters to Chapter 8 of our ordinances, and it dealt primarily with fixed sites, explosives, and underground pipeline damage and prevention. So I'd like to assess what we're doing with the pipelines right now for another 30 to 60 days and see what type of impact we have on my staff and the operators. And just look at I want to make sure that we're on firm legal ground when it comes to this ordinance, to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. So next month, I'd like to come back and illustrate the legal procedure of what it looks like from taking it from the Incident Review Board, bringing it to you, and then the legal process to get them into a local court if need be.
Okay.
And other than being subject to your questions, this concludes my briefing.
Mr. Chairman.
Rick, this basically mirrors the state aspect in general.
The ordinance, the Chapter 8-10, almost it's a mirror image of what the Louisiana Emergency Response Commission enforces, and 811 is the actual pipeline statute for the state of Louisiana.
Okay. And you just adapted it for local.
We adapted it for local purposes.
Good.
That's I'm carrying it over from our ordinance that's already in place. We can include it in that also. The wall thickness of the pipe, that'll be included also. That I'm looking into. I mean, because that's part of a technical inspection. But that's going to be on the new pipeline installations.
I definitely want to make sure that's in there where we have the ability to check and see whether they're following our current ordinances as far as thickness of the pipes.
For thickness and casings?
Yes,
Okay.
because that makes all the difference for whether we can move forward and not get saddled with the responsibility of increasing or encasing a pipeline later on whenever we move a road or do something.
Okay. But as far as the notification procedures go, again, they're exceeding our expectations. That's looking very well.
Can you just make sure that a section is added that that makes a notation to identify the current restrictions on the code for its design and et cetera? You can take a look at it. We just want to make sure that's a very important point that we emphasize that.
Right, and it would probably have to be another chapter. I mean, the chapter 811 deals primarily with notification and emergency procedures. So if we want to identify any technical specifications that we want to put in it, we'll add another chapter to it.
Yeah, I would just check with the requirements and we can make sure that's included in there.
I can do that.
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
Rick, just a quick run through on this thing. Looks like you're going to be getting a lot more information into your office that you're going to have to maintain. Have you come up with a way to keep this evergreen and make sure that we've got current data, with these systems that are coming in?
In terms of fixed site or both?
Both, actually. I mean, if like with a magazine, for example, I mean, are they going to give you dates of when they're going to bring it in as well as when they're going to remove it, and make sure that you're notified within that, so it is, you have up-to-date information to make sure that when it's gone, when you can kind of release or relieve, let the volunteers know that, that exposure is not in their area of coverage anymore, those type of things like that.
For explosive magazines, we're going to mirror the same permitting process that the state uses. So we'll have that same data. As in pipelines, when we're doing that also, we're putting it on our database in OEP, just like we would do with chemical releases. So we're keeping the same, these three databases updated just like we would do for any of our Tier 2 facilities.
Okay.
Mr. Lambert?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Rick, on the reimbursement, I want to try to get some figures out there. I mean, this is something that we'll be taking under now. That do you have a number roughly of some of the incidents that might have happened in other parishes that we're going to?
Yeah, we've been billing for the unified command for agencies. If we had an incident in the parish and they wanted to bill, OEP has actually been billing the carrier for all the agencies that were involved in a response for the incident. So we're talking anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000 as far as the response goes. What we bill under the unified command, and then once we get reimbursed from the carrier, finance disperses the money to each agency that was involved in the response. A lot of times we're out there 16, 18 hours, maybe more, and it's not budgeted into the operating costs. So this is a way to recoup some of that for these transportation companies that are causing damage to our infrastructure and causing long-term responses.
And, Mr. Chairman, also just to let everyone know that with the subcommittee meetings, I mean, with the pipeline companies, everyone at the table were real interested in helping, but it's going to really go back to the educational part of this. We're going to have to get this out to everyone. This is a big step that we're fixing to take with this, and it's going to all go back to the education part of it. Rick, the other thing that we were looking at was possible the aerial. Did you get any feedback from the pipeline company on that?
On the aerial photography?
Whenever they do their flyovers to check their pipelines, maybe if they had you in contact with some of the things that are going on, did they say any more about that?
I've got my staff working on that. I hadn't got a response back from the pipeline companies yet, but I know when they do, that's going to be a critical way to notify us if something's going on within a pipeline right away.
Yeah.
But I hadn't got a response back yet.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to take a lot of eyes out there to help prevent something like this happening again. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And just to remind people, in the near future, as of right now, we have billions of dollars of increased industrial activity, which means that they'll have to be serviced by some pipelines, and these things will be coming in, and we want to make sure we're responsible doing it properly.
It's going to take a public outreach effort, from my office also. I mean, the LA One Call can't notify all of the contractors in place, so we're planning a public outreach project so we can make sure we let all the operators know.
And I'm sure everybody's had a chance to read over this and memorize it. Look, we're looking to take this under advisement and come back next month, take a look at it. If there's no further questions, and come back with suggestions for any changes, questions, comments, anything, and keep in touch as we go on. Rick, we were kind of looking, I think, as in March as being our target date for.
In March, I want to present this one final time to the LEBC for a review, and then
Okay.
we'll move forward from there with the recommendations
So
back to
it'll-
your committee.
So it'll probably be in April before we
Right.
actually send it on. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a couple of months, and take a look, and feel free to call Rick. He's been very helpful anytime you call and ask questions or any comments or anything that we've left out. And again, Rick, I thank you very much. It's a lot of work, and I think down the line, this is going to be what it takes to help protect the citizens. So appreciate it. Number 6, funding for animal shelter. Mr. Pierce.
Yes, sir. I give y'all two options. I think you might have them in your folder, option 1 and option 2. Just to kind of brief you on what currently goes on with the Animal Control Center here in Ascension Parish. We take approximately 3,300 calls a year. We handle a total of over 4,200 animals in Ascension Parish. LSU comes to Ascension Parish 48 times a year to perform health exams on the animals at the center. And then one week they do that, the next week they do the spay and neuter on the animals at the center. We have 29 dog cages, we have 28 cat cages. We house approximately 90 animals a day. Currently, we have 6 staff members that perform jobs as far as kennel cleaning, animal control officer. Right now, we are short one of those. We have a technician that comes in every holiday to clean and care for the animals. Ascension Parish operates 365 days a year. There's no days that they take off due to the fact that we have to care for the animals. We have an animal control officer on 24-hour call for bite cases, aggressive animals, and injured animals. We perform, record keeping that has to be precise, and we coordinate with the LSU on their weekly appearances. We dispatch the ACOs. We handle the office calls, the people in and out, and surrender and pick up animals and adopt dogs. For your information, option 1 is for 2013, we have budget expenditures of $398,500, as you note there, and our total revenues without the cities is $75,000. As you see, that leaves us a deficit of $323,500. Proposed funding of deficit from revenues from the cities. I contacted each governmental entity and to possibly get in an intergovernmental agreement with Ascension Parish to help fund this operation, the Animal Control Center, because of our large deficit. And as you can see, the average number of animals for St. James and Gonzales, Donaldsonville, Sorrento, we set up an intergovernmental agreement where in Ascension Parish, if you delivered a dog to the animal center, it would cost you $175. And if we had to pick them up, we'd add an additional $50 to $225 in Ascension Parish. Outside of the parish, currently we deal with St. James, and we will charge them $225 to bring an animal to us. We are not going to pick up any animals in St. James Parish. On the revenue side, you see the figures. It adds up to about $147,025, and we still have a projected remaining deficit of $176,000. That is the first option. The second option is to close the center and just go with the 2 animal control officers with benefits. As you see, is $87,000, which would leave us a projected deficit of $12,000. The parish would only pick up vicious animals. And that concludes my report.
Mr. President, you want to make comments on why, explain why we're doing this?
Well, we talked about this about a year ago. I think I discussed it less than a year and told you what the situation was. We have 0 dedicated funds for animal control in Ascension Parish. If you wanted to go with this program, it's going to cost you to supplement just to pick up the dogs in the parish $176,000 a year. And basically that money comes out of your general fund at this point, and it's just a decision that needs to be made, whether you want to continue into this without any kind of dedicated funding, or you just want to do as we did in the past. All we did was pick up vicious dogs. We went by ordinance, and the ordinance does define what a vicious dog is. So we can handle it that way, and it would only be a net deficit of $12,633 a year. So basically, we just kind of want to come to the council and let them know where we stand and whether or not we want to continue operating at that much of a surplus. We talked to the cities, and none of them want to get back in the animal control business, I can assure you. They want it to continue. So it's just kind of up to you what direction you want to go in. Do you want to spend $176,000, or do you want to spend $12,000? That's basically where it's at.
Questions? Mike, would you like to address us and tell us something about the animal control? Possible other funding or anything? And while he's coming up, I really want to compliment people at Animal Control. Mike, I know, leads it and do a great job. If you ever have a chance, and when you read the paper nowadays and everything and go and see what goes on in other places, you can appreciate the effort that's put forth, and I think there's a number of ways that really is not presented here that they go out and either save a bunch of money or bring in extra money, especially with LSU and the feed and everything else. So if you get a chance, go take a look, and it's pretty enlightening to see what's going on.
There's a formula that's used in the animal control business to come up with a number for your population. And the in Ascension Parish, I know you're all aware, but the population is around 109,985. You got 2,225 businesses. We service those too. You got 5,209 trailers. You have 31,111 homes. That's all taxable off the assessors list. And the formula they use to run just a basic animal control, is like $4.50 per person population. Because what happens is you have 1.5 dogs per person, or per household, or per person. You may have none, but your neighbor may have 5. And there's 2.5 cats. That's a lot of animals that take over your parish. It may not affect you today, but I promise you somewhere down the line it will affect you in one way, shape, or form. So these numbers that we're telling you about, the 4,200 animals that we dealt with last year, it equates to a lot issues either because of people bringing them in because they're losing their jobs. I'm just throwing out some of the reasons that they bring them in, or they strays. I mean, they're breeding in the wild. I won't get into all that. I think you have a pretty good idea why we have so many animals in Ascension Parish. We work hand in hand with the public. I mean, we do 768 activities occur a month. That's not directed towards the actual cleaning of the shelter, the everyday, the taking care of the animals. That's public activities that occur, either record keeping, someone bringing in an animal control activities. There's so many things that have to take place. I was astounded when I took it over just how complex it was and how many things that happen there. Of course, it's up to y'all to decide, you know, just what direction you want to go into and just how good you want to run that department. And like I said, they usually use the number of $4.50. That's for a basic animal control. A real well-functioning one is like $6.75. So you can go either way. I think we function pretty well the way we are right now. I'm not into the elaborates of animal control. I'm into the basics. I'm real realistic about the way I run the department. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, any, Don?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, sir. So, am I to understand if we have 985 residents, rounded off to 110,000 with the formula 450?
What you get?
If I do, what I got, that's what I was going to ask you. I get somewhere around 494,000, give or take.
Yeah.
So about
Yeah.
500,000.
That's normal, yeah.
And so, if that's normal, looking up at the top of option 1, where it says our budget expenditures for the year of 2013 was 398, you operating about
I can always come under
25%
budget. I
below.
can run the department efficient enough to come under budget.
Right. You're operating about 25% below that $450 formula.
That's correct.
I have a couple questions. The numbers that are there on average number of animals that are handled per year by the cities, and then the parish, I guess, of St. James, who uses the facility. Mr. Pierce said something about we charge an extra $50 if we have to pick the animal up. Is that reflected in the price per animal numbers I see?
Well,
Because,
this is a new formula that he's putting in place.
well, I mean,
that
if you
he's proposing
multiply the
to-
175 for Donaldsonville, for example, times 100, you get 17.5. So that would indicate to me no animals had to be picked up, or it's just not in the figures.
That's not included.
It's not included. Okay. But if it was, is it a substantial amount of money, or would still be in the hole?
Well, Donaldsonville has what they call animal control.
And not just them. I mean, the same can be said for Gonzales, St. James, Sorrento. I guess they're all,
Well, Donaldsonville has, what they do is they bring the animals to us. We don't do the city limits of Donaldsonville. We do everything out in the parish, but not in the city limits of Donaldsonville. We house their dogs and we hold them to the same floor mat that we do for the parish.
right. So let me ask you, how long does this is a euthanized facility, correct?
Yeah, we are kill facility.
Kill facility. All right. So how long does an animal, is his average stay, let's say, before euthanization?
It depends on the adoptability and the health of the animal. If LSU comes in and tells us if it's free of heartworms, then it's.
So what do you do if the animal has a problem? You get it like it got hit by a car or something like that? If you
Oh, we
wait till
put
you
it,
get
it
to
depends.
work with
We're not funded to take it to the vet, you know,
So
vet
the-
for
the
vet
animal
bills.
has to
We make a call. We make a call on it if it's, I don't want to get gory, but if the animal is injured, we put it down. We humanely euthanize it.
But do we have ordinances that say how long you have to hold the animal? Like, for example, if it's my dog and I want to get it and it was hurt and you decided to euthanize it.
Well, this is what happens. You're not in compliance with the ordinance. If you comply with the ordinance, you're going to have license and registration on your dog that we can identify. So if an animal comes in to us and he's complying with the ordinance of the parish, within hours, we can contact that owner, because there's a number on that tag that directs us to what vet it went to, where that record, we have records that say who that tag was sent to, so we have a phone number and we're able to right away get it to. We've already placed animals to people that were in Florida and Texas within hours if they're in compliance with the ordinance. And we also scan every animal that comes through for a
Microchip.
microchip. So,
I have another question, but it's actually for Mr. Pierce. Mr. Chairman, if you'd bear. What, let's see, what did you say here? You talked about 3,200 calls per year and 4,200 animals handled per year. And I'm trying to relate all this to the price per animal and the average number of animals that I see in the table in front of me under option number 1 and what's being done. Let me just ask it this way, regardless of how this math comes out. Can we charge these cities more money legitimately and try to recoup some of this deficit? Or I hear from the chairman in my ear we've gone up already recently.
Yeah,
Whatever.
this reflect, what was the price before, Moose?
It was a flat price,
Right.
like, I think it was $15,000 and $20,000 depending on the governmental entity.
Right.
Regardless of whether we came up
some
or
of them
not, are they dancing to the music of this minimum formula standard of the professionals of $4.50 population individual and what they're contributing? I'm trying to get a handle on the cities and what are they doing, and are they doing enough?
I've talked to each one of them. I met with each mayor and the president of St. James Parish, and they indicated to me that let me know when you pass the ordinance. We would rather not get into animal control.
That sort of suggests that
Or not the ordinance, but the intergovernmental agreement.
they may be open to some financial changes. I mean, it's almost like we don't have a juvenile detention center in the parish, and it's an unfunded liability as well without dedicated funds. And so when they up the bed from per head, per bed per day from whatever it was, 120, 30 to 230, this is a service we're now providing for these cities. We could theoretically do the same, and if they don't want to deal with it, then they're going to have to deal with their problem. Is that correct, Mr. Pierce?
You saying if they didn't want to,
Like
adhere
if
to
we ask
our,
them for another raise to try to take some of this pain off of us and still be full service and not use option 2 and fire people and decrease services, if we've already, I started with
I think what I'm
25%
saying is
below
what you've
what we
already
maybe
done.
should be doing.
You've put a formula together of how long it takes to house a dog and what it takes to feed it and the amount of days average of keeping it. I think that's what you're asking.
I think that's in the
basically, right?
price. I understood.
And that's what he's
Right.
proposing to you, is that's what he's changed in
But
what he's
I'm
presenting
really
to you.
still asking, though, are the cities paying a fair price for this or not?
are the cities paying a fair price for this?
For the work we do for them?
I would say yes, because before they were in the 15,000, 20,000 range. And Sorrento is much less than that. St. James about I guess 6,000 or 7,000. If you would go to increase in the cost of that, that would possibly put Gonzales in over the $100,000 range. In St. James and Sorrento, possibly 40, 50,000.
Depends on how many we pick up.
Donaldsonville, 35, 40. It would almost be a wish as to whether they want to do that or not.
Did you do it for all of them?
I didn't, that's just for Gonzales, I didn't do all of them.
Yeah, and I apologize, I don't have the old rate schedule with us, just to see how much we did increase. What was Gonzales paying before?
20,000.
20,000. They were paying 20,000, and we're proposing on average, counting the number of dogs with that formula, to go from 20,000 to 76,000. So it's a pretty significant increase.
Yeah,
from
and
20 to
what I
76.
was headed for, I think.
We've increased it to the cities to the governmental entities to the tune about 100, a little bit more over 100,000.
Let me just put into the record something that Councilman Johnson just handed to me. I think it's important. This is actually what I was headed at, and he did some of the math. He's saying the population of Gonzales is somewhere around 15,000 people. So it,
Under 10?
10.
Okay,
oh,
just
it's
under 10, okay,
under
so that
10.
math's off.
Oh, well, then this second,
Yeah.
so then it would be 10 times 450 would be around 45,000. In that
45,000.
case, if they paid 76,300 in fiscal 2013, they're actually even over the 450.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to get at. I was trying to figure out, are they, because I want the citizens that are watching this at home, because I get the
Yeah,
phone calls like, are y'all
what
making
you
the
have to
cities
look
pay?
at is that, just like I said, it's based on your total population
Right.
And one person doesn't even own a cat or a dog. And
Right, I understand
person
that. I understand
C
that,
owns 10, you
Right.
know?
I understand that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Johnson?
I think what the dilemma here is how do you narrow that gap of 177 or just under 177,000 a year loss basically that we have in operating the animal shelter, and with all the other drafts and draws that we have on the general fund, do you continue to operate at this big of a loss with this, or do you cut back to option 2 to where you're losing minimal amounts of money? Of course, you're not going to get the services. I guess the only thing that we could do to kind of cut back on that is to approach to the participants like has been done to us and other issues to find out if they're willing to help us out a little bit more to cut that loss to where it's not near as much. But I don't know that we can continue to operate this this way. I would, at this point in time, unless we have some other information come out, I would be leaning towards option 2. As of this point in time, with the information that's here ahead of me, I think, you know, we're being asked to do more with less. And in this particular case, we have other issues that we have to be careful of to where you can't get into the legal aspects of not caring for the animals up to a certain level, a certain criteria. And if we're starting to run into financial issues, the quality of people we have there, I'm sure they're doing their best and will not let that happen. But again, it's a budgetary item that we don't have funds coming in for. We're taking out of the general fund. And as much as you hate to do it, I think we're almost bound to go with option 2.
Thanks. And this pricing takes into account, you reach a certain point of no return, because once you raise your price a certain point, people are not going to send them to us. So, Ms. Cazzo?
Yes, if we went with option 2, would we continue to service the cities, or would they be on their own?
It would actually be on their own at that point.
Right.
Okay.
Yes,
Sure.
Mr. Lambert?
You know, I have a problem with option 2. To me, the only option we have is option 1. LeBlanc, what is the put-down rate right now per month on an animal?
You talking about euthanizing?
Yeah,
Euthanizing rate is going to vary according to, once again, how the animals came in with the adoption. We did like 78 adoptions in 3 months. If you read the paper, Livingston did like 12 in 3 months. We did 78,
right.
okay? So trying to do, it's a part of the decision-making process. If you want to change it to a no-kill facility, I don't see how you can even function as a,
You can't.
even though they call themselves a no-kill facility,
Yeah, it is.
is not a no-kill facility. It's just that they sit in cages
Yeah.
and till one gets adopted. And you want me to explain that process, how that works?
Well, I know how it works, and
Okay.
you know, back to, the beginning here, I was getting reports that we were putting down 126 cats a month.
There's a possibility at times
And-
that can
and
occur
you
during the
know,
breeding seasons of feral cats. I mean, people are totally unaware of the feral cat. And the adoption rate on cats are very, very minimal.
At option 2, what do you think would happen with that?
Oh, let's put it like this. The parish would be overrun by
That's
cats and
right.
dogs in
That's
just
right.
a matter of no time
You
whatsoever.
have to go with option 1.
You would
to be
have
able to sustain.
more destruction and,
Exactly.
you know, just the simple math of what's sitting out there in play of feral animals will take over. I mean, we had today, just to give you an idea, people actually bring rats in. Actually bring rats in that they catch in live traps.
And I'll finish up with this, Mr. Chairman. This shelter is most probably, it was number 1 in the state.
We were
know-
right up at the top.
We're right there at the top. You know, we're gonna have to dig deep and find this extra funding, because we'll have more complaints on dogs and cats than we have with transportation and sewer. So, I'm gonna support option one until we can figure out something else on this.
I would suggest, due to time constraints, because we do have meetings tonight, that we take this under advisement, talk about it this month, have some discussions. We have the figures now. We want the public to see that, people expect us to run things like a business and to stay within our funding means. And so this, right now, we are not within our funding means, even though we are very, very, very efficient. So we just have to decide where we want to be at in this animal control and go from there. So we welcome your suggestions, ideas, as we go forward this month, and hopefully we can come up with some solutions at next month's meeting.
Thank you.
We don't need it, there's no action. Okay, and we are running over, so we ask that we try to get along as quickly as possible. Number 7, update on garbage services, and we have a speaker, John Pryor. Do you want us, John, do you want to address it after we
Yes.
introduce this? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Pierce,
Yes.
do you want to?
Okay,
introduce?
I explained, got with the legal office and drafted up an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 20, Solid Waste Management. As you can see on Exhibit A, I'll just kind of highlight some of the points. Let's see, Section 23. I, payment. We inserted there a franchise fee of 100%, 1% of the monthly charge to residential customers shall be remitted to Ascension Parish by the franchisee on the 10th of the month following the previous month's charges. If you can see that, that's under I, payment. Let me drop back to the first couple of pages. I think it's the 4th or 5th page under B of that same section, 20.3, 20-3B, scope of the franchise agreement. And it says an individual, a partnership, a limited liability company or corporation must have a franchise to do business in Ascension Parish. Just wanted to bring that out to your attention, and the work under the franchise agreement shall consist of items contained in this ordinance and so on. We can go now past I, the payment. As you see, we talked about 1% franchise fee. And the next page, under the letter L, required services of the franchise. A residential garbage collection once a week and small brush once per week, recycling once per week, bulky waste once a month, and white good once a month. Or residential garbage twice a week, small brush once a week, recycling once a week, bulky waste once a month, white goods once a month, as determined by the franchisee and each individual customer. You also might note the last part of the last sentence. White goods and bulky waste can be on a call-out basis. Okay?
Thank you.
I'm going to go to the next page,
Okay.
and we're going to go to the effective date. And that's under Section 20-4B, the effective date. The franchise agreement must be signed by June the 1st, 2013, and shall be effective upon execution. Performance of such franchise agreement shall begin no later than January the 1st, 2014, for solid waste and recyclables collection and transportation, unless extended by the parish. That's on the effective date. Further down, under letter E of the same page, the term of the franchise agreement. Franchise agreement shall be for 3-year period beginning, as we stated previously, January the 1st, 2014, ending December 2016. The initial 3-year term of the franchise agreement may be extended for successive additional 5, that should be 3, typo, year terms unless either party notifies the other party in writing not less than 90 days prior to the expiration of the initial 3, typo again, year term. Any such written notice shall be served by a certified or registered mail and return receipt requested. And that's kind of the gist of it on the contract that I think
Okay.
is maybe some of the important
Okay.
aspects you might look at.
Thank you. Due to time constraints, just real quick, basically what you're going to have, if you want to do business in Ascension Parish and garbage business, you have to sign up with the parish as a franchise. It's non-exclusive. Anyone can do business in the parish. You're welcome to come in, just sign up. If you do business in the parish, you are required to provide the services that we have listed above. Basically, garbage collection, recycling, bulky waste, and white goods. And that's the gist of it. The details are within there, as just like most other franchise agreements that we have would be for a minimum of 3%. We're looking at proposed as a 1% because there will be some type of administrative cost, just making sure the enforcement and all that goes with it. We just want this to be revenue neutral. And it's not dedicated for anything, it's just goes in for the expected cost. It comes out to about 25 cents per customer per month. Any, now we're gonna obviously take this on advisement till next month to act on it so you can read it, digest it. Any questions or comments today?
Mr. Chair.
Can we have our, you want to make a,
Yeah, just a very quick question or comment. Page 14, in addition to the 1% franchise fee to be paid by customers, includes a franchise fee of 3% of the monthly charge to residential customer
yeah, that's not,
to be paid by the franchisee, I guess. And my understanding is that's just,
that's a typo.
doesn't belong in there. It just, it's a typo, it's going to be taken out.
Yeah, that was, that was original, and a new paragraph was put in, and so the correct is 1, but we're going to make sure and make that, that change on that move. So on page 14 should not be there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley, picked that up. Mr. Pryor?
Good evening, members of the council. John Pryor, I'm a waste management consultant. I represent Dale's Garbage Service. If I sound a little unprepared to comment, I wasn't aware that the committee had received such guidance from, or such a, that it not had been submitted to the committee for consideration as of yet. So I'm not clear on, I haven't read it. I have just a couple concerns, though, and as I was reading it, listening rather, I was a little bit confused as to the distinction made between it being a non-exclusive and the term used as franchisee. To me, that indicated only one such entity, but then...
It's non-exclusive, much like we have on the television, cable thing, where we have, you can join as a franchisee for the parish with cable, ETL, Cox, etc., and you can do the same thing. Livingston does this also, non-exclusive franchises, and they have a number of garbage providers, and so we're not looking, anyone that wishes to get in the garbage business, we welcome them. All we want to do is have a minimum performance that you're going to do or services provided.
And I've met with several members of the council, and I certainly understand the issue, and I very much appreciate that. I commend the council and the parish for moving in that direction. I represent Dale, and I don't think there's a person in the parish that wants to provide any higher level of service satisfaction than Dale is doing. He currently represents over 6,000 satisfied customers, all of whom, or most of whom, speak very well of his services. And I'm also here to represent his interest in continuing to serve that constituency and that customer base. So we're looking forward to receiving information. We're going to read the guidelines, and I'll thank you for the opportunity to be here today with you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, comments? Okay, we'll take that under advisement and be prepared next month. Zoning table amendments, Mr. Compton? Oh, you got buzz.
Time's up.
Time's up.
Several months ago, the Strategic Planning Committee sent an item to the Zoning Commission for their review, and a public hearing was held in January on the item, and there were several questions from the commissioners to the Strategic Planning that they wanted to have resolved before they made a recommendation back to the council. Those items are addressed in the memo that's in your packet, so I can run through them real quick. These are about the residential densities being lowered in the commercial zoning categories, and the single-family detached land use is being reduced from 8 units an acre to 4 units an acre. They questioned why 4 units an acre. They wondered if there was any significance to the 4 units per acre, or if the number was arbitrary, could it be higher? They wanted a recommendation on each of these items, so I think we should take them one at a time.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're going to, Mr. Sadler, go ahead.
We can go one at a time, or actually, Ricky, preparing as a new member of this committee, I went ahead and looked at the film last time from the planning meeting where this occurred, and I heard the concerns of the commissioners. And I believe you mentioned into the record then, and you might want to speak to that again here, that if you go too far with this, you will essentially eliminate the ability to have apartment, for example, type housing at all in the parish.
Yes, sir.
I'm
That's
not
the
sure which one of these
third
categories that
item
is.
on the list.
Right. Is that correct?
That would be correct. You're not limiting through the changing of the code, you're limiting it through its economic feasibility. And so I believe, and if Lindsay were there, she could answer the question, but there's court cases that back that up, is that you can't limit the economic feasibility through zoning regulation of building all types of housing.
So are they looking for a number maybe intermediate to what this, between what this committee suggested to them and their, you want to say, inability right now, or not willingness to act, or?
Right. It was my speculation, based on what I was hearing at that meeting, that they were simply going to deny all of the, recommend not to do this. And I posed the question, well, what if the number is higher?
That's what I heard.
Is
It sounded to me
there-
like they were headed to denial.
Right. And so they asked that we bring it back here to ask this committee why you picked those numbers. Would you choose a higher number so that they can consider those numbers? Because the numbers that were proposed to them, they were not comfortable with approving. And, I gave some real-world examples from my days as a planner and a designer that, our commercial zoning designations are the only place in the parish that you can do a 50-foot residential lot. And if you lower that number to 4 units an acre, you're not going to get the density that commercial zoning allows you to get to, because that's the only place you can build a 50-foot lot, and your density is going to be about 5.5 if you build a 50-foot lot subdivision. So by doing that, you're limiting the ability of a developer to build a 50-foot lot subdivision without doing a PUD or a SPUD. So the questions were, can the numbers be higher?
And I'll answer that, Ricky, because, and I apologize because I saw that I had that. It ended up being on my junk mail, and so I didn't get a chance to review it. But what we had we had a discussion on it because there was some questions going back and forth, and basically what we did, we had a great deal of discussion, and it ranged from high to low, and it was recommended that we send it to Planning and Zoning for their recommendation to come back to us for the review and discussion and everything, and come back with their recommendations to the council. So we are open to, you know, whatever number would be within that, or they can stay the same. It was just something that some people were concerned about. We brought it out of discussion so we can take a look at it. Any further recommendations, we're wide open to that. So planning and zoning is free to make whatever recommendations they would wish.
Okay. I will convey that. We're going to have a public hearing in February on these items again, and so that's what we will discuss.
Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Good questions. With that, no further. Motion by Mr. Lambert.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. This meeting is adjourned.